Welcome to Employment Law Today. I'm your host, Eric Sauber, an employment law and business law attorney and founder of the law office of Eric M. Sauber. I'm here tonight with a very special guest and good friend of mine, Miss Amy Cole from Amy Cole Connect. Amy, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Same here, same here. And I just want to tell our listeners tonight, for those that might be new or coming back to the show, what and where the show is about, what we do. Every Tuesday at 5 p.m., I host the show Employment Law Today. And the main topic of the show involves COVID-19, the pandemic, and its impact on businesses. And the goal of the show is to inspire and educate and motivate our guests and our listeners by having stories about how people overcome obstacles during the pandemic, how they handle their employment labor law issues, and how certain businesses might pivot in their model. So basically, it's really a show to help businesses out there that are listening. So with that, I wanted to introduce our topic, and then I'll introduce Amy in more detail, the brief bio of her impressive background. So the topic of tonight's show is called The Confidence, Community, and Connection, Combating COVID's Impact on Your Business. And I thought about this topic with Amy. We were discussing this a bit by email and just afterwards, in that COVID-19's impact on a business's bottom line can often do more than just hurt your P&L statement. This pandemic, I feel, and I think those out there listening might agree, can really curtail a business owner's confidence and their creativity that really a business needs these days to thrive and even to survive this pandemic of COVID-19, and even after the pandemic for that matter. So tonight I'm speaking with Amy Cole, founder and CEO of Amy Cole Connect. And in addition to being an executive recruiter and a career coach, Amy is a very talented speaker and networker. And during the COVID-19 crisis, I've personally watched Amy successfully maintain her business, which we'll talk about during the show. And she's built a weekly Zoom following called Wednesday's Career Zoom, if I'm not mistaken, Amy, is that right title?
Correct. Industry
Which inspires.
Insights. Career Zoom. Yeah. Sorry.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, you were saying?
So it is, yeah, absolutely. Industry Insights Career Zoom. Similar,
Got it.
yeah,
Okay.
about what's going on in industries. Exactly. Yeah.
Right. Wednesdays at 10 a.m., which you'll talk about. And so that basically inspires connection, encouragement, and support for candidates for jobs and companies alike. So tonight we'll be discussing how a company or a job seeker can reinvent themselves and develop new services, and maybe most importantly, create community in support of these goals. So with that, again, I'd like to really welcome Amy to the show. Amy's a dear friend of mine as well. We rent office space in a common building. At least we did. And the last time I saw Amy was probably early March or thereabouts, I think.
March
That's
12th.
about right.
March 12th.
Yep. I think I was on vacation that week, so maybe it was the week prior, March 5th, that I saw you. But it's good to see you live. I sent you on Zoom many times, but if I may introduce to our audience tonight, Amy Cole is the founder of, as I mentioned, of Amy Cole Connect. She is a staffing expert. She's a career coach and a speaker. People are Amy's passion, and recruiting is her business. It's no coincidence that Amy combined a degree in human development from Boston College with 20 years in executive recruiting to achieve over $23 million in permanent placements with global brands such as Kate Spade, Calvin Klein, and Michael Kors. As a top resource for successful hiring, team building, and retaining executive talent, Amy helps companies to attract, vet, and secure their ultimate hire in today's virtual landscape. She has launched hundreds of careers, delivering cutting-edge coaching programs that capitalize on today's digital technology to position executives for high-level business opportunities, all the while maintaining a spotlight on the human spirit. And her website is www.amycoleconnect. And if I may say one more thing, I was reading a bio of Amy's, but I've seen Amy in action, just sharing office space and seeing the way you talk to people you interview and candidates and companies. And I see that energy, that spark, and that optimism that you bring to all your endeavors. So it's just really nice to have you again on the show. So
Thank you. I mean it when I say I'm excited. It's great to see you, even though it's through the screen. It really is good to see you.
You too, Amy. Same here. So maybe turning to our topic, I just had maybe the first perhaps question for you during this pandemic. I'm curious, as an executive recruiter for last 20 years, how has the pandemic affected your business?
Well, and it's funny that you mentioned that passion piece because I love the people part. When I say I love the people part of recruiting and
Mhm.
coaching, it really is so, is that I don't get to touch and feel people. I mean, if I got down to the nugget of it, recruiting
Mm.
is building teams, is empowering men and women in their careers, is so it's just had to shift to an online portal. So that would be something on a personal level in the recruiting world. In the
Mhm.
in the staffing arena right now, sadly, many
Yeah.
categories are not doing that well. So I had come from staffing manufacturers, home, beauty, and apparel. And the manufacturing landscape has
Mm.
changed and is no longer hiring right now because the retail landscape is also changing. So they're in a
Mm.
pivot situation. And many of my companies have furloughed, honestly, a third of their people and not coming back, and then have
Mhm.
those that are on staff working at, what should I say, reduced salaries. So my
Mhm.
need to be recruiting right now has been limited, in fairness. And I want to be transparent on the clause because you are asking us to feel and help each other out as businesses. My business for recruiting,
Mhm.
I'm at a third of the business that I had last year, one third. I
Mhm.
took a look at my P&L.
Right.
But what's been exciting, and you said, Amy, what's happening? People are slowly hiring again. I want to put that out there. If you're an
Mhm.
engineering and IT recruiter, you're on fire, as you can
Mm.
imagine in
Sure.
recruiting. But what's really transformed everything is how everything has gone online. And as you said, so what have I done? If you want me to kind of jump into that, since I do all the wholesale side and they're not
Mhm.
really busy right this minute,
Sure.
I my passion has been the people piece, and I always had a revenue stream of coaching, but it was, to use hard numbers, 87% of my revenue stream last year was recruiting revenue, and
Right.
13% was coaching revenue.
Ah.
This year, I'm a complete flip.
Mm. Wow. Mm.
I don't know that it's going to be 87 and 13, but it is completely where the coaching revenue far out surpasses the recruiting revenue.
Right. A lot of the couple of things to unpack there that I relate to as well. You talked about missing the touch, the in-face person to person. And my guest last week was Susan Gans, who talked a little bit about this topic that seems to reoccur about emotional intelligence and how in this virtual world, virtual setting, we're missing some of the cues that give off to feel comfortable with one another and missing a few of those aspects of EI, as they call it. So certainly I can understand how it's a challenge. And then, of course, to adapt to that takes some pivoting right there. And also you talked about just, the sort of the inverse, right? The employment numbers, hiring coming back, but going down significantly. And the way your numbers shifted. I mean, certainly as an employment law, business law attorney, I've seen a lot of my clients who were hiring and onboarding who stopped doing that. And now they're starting to ramp back up again. And certainly there are more COVID-19 regulations in place. But it's good to hear you talk about just, how you mentioned the flip. I'm curious, how exactly can you share with us a little bit about how you, Amy, built up your career candidate coaching practice as you were sort of balancing out the events?
Well, you know me, and when you said that, we have a
Hmm.
big spark at the office, we do, because we both get excited to see people and we like to give a lot, and you're a really service-driven
Sure.
professional as well. I
Thank
just
you.
decided that I should invite everybody in my database, 12,000 people, to come on a Zoom and we'll talk. And you
Hmm.
were one of my first guests, and thank you again for being so fabulous on that call. And it was at that
Oh,
time, it
great.
was how do people navigate the unemployment piece, remember? And also, if they're getting let go, could they use legal counsel from you, for example? Because it hit everybody on March 13th, that Friday. It was a Friday the 13th. And next thing to know,
Hmm.
on Monday, we're not supposed to go back to our offices. Companies are
Mm.
deciding what to do. So my candidate pool just were calling. They needed me. I know that sounds,
Right.
I'm not trying to inflate who I am, but I was
Mm.
getting interesting calls, and I thought, okay, you know what? I'm going to get everybody on a phone call. Let's get on a Zoom. And I called it a
Mhm.
virtual breakfast. Let's have coffee and talk. And it has
Right.
grown into Industry Insights Career Zoom, because as I am empowering men and women professionals in their careers, whatever stage they're at,
Mm-hmm.
No,
Mm-hmm.
I'm bringing industry experts in to talk about the transformations, the digitization of those industries, and how do we now pivot? And how do you, as a professional, pivot to be a part? And my
Right.
companies were coming on the calls just to hear what people were doing, and were they were they treating their employees fairly? Because that was a hard time for companies also. It still is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, I hear what you're saying about the companies also having that sense of, I mean, it seems like March 13th was, it's like the world just almost like did a hard stop on its axis, spinning and spinning and just like jolted everyone. And it was, I think very sudden. A lot of people from schools, to daycare facilities, to people's employment. And so you're absolutely right. I noticed you talked about how you pivoted in part, Amy, by utilizing your contacts and connections. I think it's a really important point to make, that we have a lot more connections than we might realize. If you go through your database, if you're a business owner out there listening to us talk tonight and you haven't met Amy or myself, but you're curious, you can really search and see, can you put out some monthly newsletters? Can you get more involved on social media? Can you organize a Zoom with your clients, your customers? I think that's all, what I've seen you do, Amy. I've seen your videos you've shot, and actually you have inspired me because I was dabbling in video marketing for my law practice back in November, December, and then got very busy for 2 months and kind of put it on hold, and then saw your videos and thought, this might be a good time to get back to the virtual and the video. So I thank you for that, and I thank you for sharing that. That have you? I'm wondering, have you also seen candidates become inspired by what you do? Like, have you seen them copy some
Eric,
of your
I
techniques and
have such,
Zoom calls?
yes, people have said to me, there's a
Mhm,
woman who's an artist who runs the Jackson Pollock House
mhm,
in East Hampton, and she has now taken it online. And she said that I'm the reason. And I said, oh, come on. And she said, no, you made it look comfortable. You had fun with it. She said, people still want to engage in art, but I was having them come and go through the Pollock Museum and do their own drip paintings. And now I've got to
mhm.
include them in a virtual experience. And you made it seem like it was possible. So yes, people have definitely been inspired and understand that if we can try to make this platform as personalized as possible, right now it's the best we
Mhm.
get, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I tend to agree with you on that, Amy. Yeah, I mean, I think it becomes personal when we have breakout rooms or themed events, and I'm glad somebody was inspired by you. I'd like to hear more about that, but we do need to take a quick commercial break. So, for those again watching and listening at home, I'm Eric Sauver, host of Employment Law Today, employment law business law attorney. I'm here with my good friend and colleague Amy Cole, CEO and founder of Amy Cole Connect, executive recruiter, staffing expert, and as you heard, career coach and candidate coach. So stick around, folks. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Do you love or are you intrigued about New York City and its neighborhoods? I'm Jeff Goodman, host of Rediscovering New York, a weekly show that showcases New York's history and its extraordinary neighborhoods. Every Tuesday live at 7 p.m., we focus on a particular neighborhood and explore its history, its vibe, its feel, and its energy. Tune in live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Hey, all you listeners, looking to boost your business? Why not advertise on Talk Radio NYC with very reasonable rates? Interested? Simply send us a message on our website, talkradio.nyc.
Hi, I'm Graham Dobbin. Join me every Thursday evening for the Mind Behind Leadership here on talkradio.nyc. We speak to people from business, sport, military, and politics, all around what makes a great leader. The personal experiences of what's worked and, maybe more importantly, what hasn't worked. So that's 7 o'clock every Thursday evening, the Mind Behind Leadership here on talkradio.nyc. Listen to real stories of real leaders.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Welcome back to our show tonight, Employment Law Today, here on talkradio.nyc. I'm your host, Eric Sauver. I host this show weekly on Tuesdays at 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, each week with an interesting guest that can help you and your business to get through this pandemic. Amy, you were talking a moment ago about the aspects of reinventing oneself and how you had a client that you said who was inspired by you, seeing what you do with your career Zoom Wednesday, your Wednesday breakfast, and we had a commercial break. So can you tell us a little bit more? It sounds like an interesting story. I'd like to hear a little more about that if you'd like to share with us.
Well, this is a woman who's an artist, and she's a very bright artist and has done a great deal to work. Well, namely, she works with the Jackson Pollock Museum, and she takes you through, she lives out in East Hampton, and she takes you through the Jackson Pollock Museum, and you experience his life for a minute. It's fascinating. And then you do a little drip painting. So that's, of course, a live experience. And in addition, she draws murals with school children, elementary and middle school. And of course, that's another live experience. The school takes the side of their building, she draws the mural, and the children paint the mural in. So her business went kaflooey, as did so many of our businesses. So, we all can say our businesses went kaflooey. But when she came on my calls and she realized that there is a way to connect online, and this career Zoom is interactive, as you know, you are on, and I have the guest speaker speak, but I also call on people in the audience. And then we also work with chat and breakout rooms so that we can emulate as close to as possible as a networking organization. She took it and said, wow, you've made this comfortable. So she went ahead and she ended up making her tour of the Pollock Museum virtual. And when you buy into the tour, you receive at home, I believe, a canvas and some paints, and so that ties her story up with a bow, so she can still gain. I mean, it's a revenue stream. I think one of the things we all need to talk about, Eric, here is you and I now are doing business differently. We're building communities, right? As you said, and we're trying to find new ways to have our business stabilize and have revenue streams. So yes, she took an interest in how it was going with me and kept coming on and saying, well, do you stream it to Facebook? How do you get it what do you do with the recordings? So I shared some of those technical background things. And I think maybe you share as well. That can be some of the hardest part. It's not the content or sharing how we feel with people. It's the back end. Oh my goodness, how am I ever going to repurpose it? How do you market it? That kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to see. I've seen number of my clients also who ran an in-person type of organization or event who have then gone into a different direction or pivoted, whether they're restaurants and now it's pickup or some other type of entertainment. It's interesting. My sister, Stacy Sarver, I'll give her a plug if she's listening tonight. She opened up she and her business partner opened up a shop in Larchmont, rather, in Westchester, called DIY Slime. And so basically do-it-yourself slime. I'm sorry, DIY slime. Sorry, Stacey. And basically they have children's parties and it was really, really building. And then with the pandemic, they couldn't do it in person for a while. They're doing these sort of like online tutorials and, online type of events and outdoor backyard parties and, DIY slime kits to go. And I have to say, I was impressed by her pivot. And, what I found is that in my field, well, I was actually very busy when this all started because I practiced employment law, business law. So, companies calling about furloughs and how to do it properly, following the new COVID-19 protocols. But certainly there have been times when other parts of my own practice around business law were a little slower because some businesses, let's face it, when they had some items that were not pressing, if their income revenue stream is lower, they'll put things on the back burner. So I have clients that were saying in the spring of 2020, I'd like to really revisit these, issues or agreements, et cetera, or restructure the company, which I thought was a wonderful idea, something I've been telling the client to do or encouraging him to do, I should say, for a long time. And then seeing that, shift. So I pivoted more towards the employment law realm and toward the business law as involving COVID-19, and involved a lot of, online mediums, webinars, even this radio show. So, video podcast, here I am tonight. And so, I feel like this pandemic, if it's a tough pill we're all dealt to swallow, but, and it's a dark cloud, but it really can have a silver lining, if one looks for it. And, I see you went out there and looked for it, and you've got these people that are doing the same, I think is terrific. You know, it's really something to be commended.
Well, if I may jump in, Eric, I used to run a type of career Zoom professional development once a month in our shared office space and would have 8 to 10 people come. I have 50 to 80 people come every Wednesday morning online. So you can see how, well, number one, they're home. So therefore my target audience, is in a place where they're available, but you would think they would have come live to New York, right? I was in Midtown, right? You and I were on 32nd and 6th. It wasn't a big deal to get to us. However, I would have top 10 to 12 people every month. And now every single week, I have 50 to 80.
It's something, really, I think it speaks to, the whole reinventing oneself and pivoting, and how in some ways this virtual world can allow folks to get out there more. So if you're a business owner, let's say, who was once too busy to network because you had to mind the shop or mind the office, or let's say you lived out in Long Island, you commute every day, you want to get home in time to see your kids and your family, now you can commute to, let's say, the den or study and turn on your laptop. And again, I don't want to suggest, Amy, that it's a complete replacement for in-person, live face-to-face, like you pointed out when the show started. But I do think it's the second best thing right now is, what we've got. And to hear you, using this, it kind of kicks me maybe into a segue of the next question. Of perhaps if you can maybe share, let's say maybe your top like 3 strategies that you recommend, let's say for candidates to uncover like hidden job opportunities out there.
Well, Eric, networking has always been the number one way you're going to find a job. Pre-COVID, post-COVID, 1980, 2020. It is
Agreed.
how you and I network and build the relationships we have. But I do always fall into a thing called Circle of 8, which is one of my methodologies to help candidates and people and small businesses network also. What are the 8 friends and family that you have that need to understand and know you well enough and know what your gifts are, your career expertise, so that those are marketing engines for you, your cousin. If your sister really can't dialogue, if Stacy can't tell you what employment law Eric, her brother, practices, she's not helping you and she loves you the most. So I always say to keep your circle of 8, make sure they understand your core competencies and have a quick, he's great at contract law. For example, I know that you and I've often had candidates have to look at contracts, and once they're hired, I send them to you to evaluate the contract, correct? So it's because I know that's one of your gifts. You wrote all of my contracts for my recruiting relationships and partnerships in business. So I know your gifts well enough to speak to them. You're my circle of 8 as a business colleague. And then I recommend that people keep a very close circle of 8. What companies are they interested in? So if you've got 8 companies that sing to your heart and you'd like to work for them, find men and women in those companies. So we all know that networking is building relationship before results, right? You've got to know.
Absolutely.
People. I'm not asking anybody for anything until I've built rapport, or you're just not a good networker. But and connection is showing each other that mutual respect and seeing that mutual beneficiality, I always feel. So, but yeah, I call that the circle of 8.
I tend to agree, yeah.
I think when you're networking, think of your friends and family, because that's your roommate in college. She knows you well. He knows you well. Can he explain to another friend as he's not taking the train home anymore, but as he's dialoguing with someone on a Zoom, oh my gosh, you need an employment lawyer. Hold on. My roommate, Eric, is great at contract law, business law, employment law, so that because sometimes you'll be surprised. Your sister doesn't always know what you do. So that circle of 8 is family, friends. Circle of 8 are business colleagues that you've built through business connections, and they've worked with you, or you've mentored you, or you've mentored them. And then I always say that circle of 8 is the companies that you might be interested in working for or servicing.
Interesting strategy, Amy, to uncover, hidden, like you said, job opportunities. It's and I think that, it's fair to say that this circle of 8, I like that, by the way, the 8, that number is interesting, but I think it's fair to say that that can help someone out there, whether you're, let's say, recently laid off due to, budget cuts or furloughs or whatnot, and you're looking for a job, or if you're a company out there, let's say a small business that's, lately been struggling, what's your circle of 8? So what are the companies, what are the business owners might from say the Chamber of Commerce you're in, from maybe your close friends, and I think you also touched upon a really important point, if I may, that I've seen people in my days, in my experience in networking, and I network a lot, as you know, I'm a big extrovert, I love to network and so forth. I find that so often people, it's right, they have to know what you do, and that often involves, explaining it in a kind of more basic, like fundamental way. Like I tell people, that when it comes to hiring, firing, managing or furloughing your employees, there are all kinds of labor and employment laws that apply. You have to know how to follow them, what to do if you get sued, and I help you get through that. And with business, there's all kinds of contracts. There's ways to start a company or to close a company or found a company, and I help you with that as well. So I try not to get too much into the hyper technical details of what I do. And so I appreciate you reminding our guests, or rather I keep saying guests, our listeners tonight, that from our guests, that if people need to know what your product or service is. You might know what your technological tech service is or your product is, but if people don't understand it and they tell somebody else, oh yeah, this person does X, and then you're, oh, actually I don't really do X, but so just important, I think, out there, people listening, to communicate what you do in a succinct way. And I think that I've noticed when I was on your Zoom call, both as a guest speaker and just listening and having coffee and breakfast, is that you're helping people to explain what they do in a very just kind of straightforward way. So are there any other strategies that you mentioned, the circle of 8, right? Keeping people abreast of what you do. Anything else that might come to mind in terms of, let's say, for those out there that are pounding the pavement looking for either business or jobs or both?
Well, I think, and you hit the word unhidden market, which I didn't dig into a circle of 8. So if I can just kind of go back and share that a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, it is the unhidden job market that you have more success in.
Mm-hmm.
Because technology has just opened up any job that is posted on LinkedIn, in Indeed, Career Builder. I don't love this word, but it's the word. It is dehumanized applying. The application process for an executive out there. And we are speaking of executives that are 2 years out, 1 year out, to 30 years out. The applying to the black hole or the abyss is truthful. It is truthful and it's painful. And it is because when men and women now from a company are using LinkedIn and they're posting that job, they're getting 548 resumes in 6 hours. That's a statistic out there. I didn't, that's not coming to my company, but
right.
Because I use my network first. I talk to I talk to my immediate 12,000 people in my network that are manufacturing executives and spread it that way. And then they say, you know what, my nephew has always been in logistics and supply chain, because I do believe that I'm going to uncover the best candidates, just like you're going to uncover hidden jobs. So the unhidden job market is through people. It's not posted yet. The job isn't posted, but we know our company's looking for an accountant. We know our company's in a pickle because we need an employment lawyer because we're getting sued from a woman that got furloughed and didn't get asked back over the other people. So that's the unhidden job market. Is through the networks that you have, that they know they're working and they can help you identify opportunities that aren't posted places. The posted ones are wonderful, but they're very hard to nail down.
Absolutely. It's to me, it's very similar to pre-COVID, COVID, I'm sure even post-COVID, that, as they say it's not what you know, it's who you know or whom you know. I think it's a little of both, but we have to take another commercial break. Amy, the time goes fast when we're having fun, doesn't it? So stick around, folks. We'll be right back. I'm Eric Sauver, law officer Eric M. Sauver, and host of Employment Law Today on Talk Radio NYC. My special guest tonight, my friend and colleague, Amy Cole. We'll be right back.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Are you interested in having a better relationship with yourself, others, and God? Greetings. I'm your host, Dr. George Andow, for the show A Journey Through into Awareness. On my show, we journey into the awareness that the mind of God is the true seat of our personal consciousness. We join together each Monday at 7 p.m. So tune in on Talk Radio NYC.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant. And on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays, 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a curious person, always asking questions? Do you desire to be in the know? Then join me, Antonia, host of So Now You Know, Thursdays at 5 p.m. at talkradio.nyc. Listen in as I attempt to satisfy that curiosity. I will be talking with amazing, everyday people. Join the fun. So Now You Know on Thursdays at 5 p.m. at talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to Employment Law Today. I'm your host, Eric Sauver, here with my special guest tonight, my guest and friend and colleague, Amy Cole from Amy Cole Connect. And we've been talking quite a bit about how to navigate this pandemic and this economic downturn, how to pivot and repackage oneself, whether you're a candidate for work or a company that's hiring or looking to grow your business. And I really appreciate, Amy, your insights with 20 years of executive recruiting and career counseling that you're bringing to the table. So I want to thank you once again for being on the show tonight. It's really great to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so, sure, you mentioned a couple of things before the break, some strategies towards networking and uncovering hidden job opportunities. And I think, as we were saying, I think it's definitely a lot about the people you know and the connection. So for folks listening, whether you're looking for a job or whether you're a company's looking to grow, think of those 8 people, think of those 8 in contact. Could be family, could be colleagues, could be an old roommate from law school, college, or whatnot. And just, get in touch with them and remind them of what you do. I think it's such an important thing that people understand. And I wondered, what your opinions are, Amy, best you can speculate, about, say, the future of business development for companies that are hiring. Like, what's the number one thing you might see companies looking to ramp up when they're rehiring these days?
Well, there's a few things, if I may, that I'm finding with companies. Number one, because of technology, there is such transparency out there about whether you're a good or a bad company. And there's no fooling around anymore. You have Career Builder, you have Glassdoor, and I will have my candidates say, I may not have a job, Amy, but I'm not working for them. Because have you read their Glassdoor reviews? And in fairness to them, I hadn't read the Glassdoor reviews. And then so a certain department of that company, because that management in that department's fabulous and that's who I'm working with, doesn't mean the arching family feeling of that company or that culture is that healthy or forthcoming. So, companies today really need to use social to best position them to attract the best people. And they really need to understand their brand so that they can put it out there. I mean, social credibility today, social proof. We are living in, look at you and I are Zooming. We're dear friends. We wish we were, toasting each other and toasting your gorgeous son and saying hello again, right?
Oh, thank
We're
you.
not. Yeah. We're on Zoom, which is fantastic too. But it's a new way of putting yourself out there as a human, as a brand, and companies are breathing, living entities that need to attract the best talent, because people are what make you grow. So I often tell companies right now, please take a look at what you look like online. What is your website? Is it from 1972 because you're in manufacturing and you don't care because you make, I staff a great deal of manufacturers, and companies make, for example, what am I company? Amy Cole, pots, that you plant pots and then they sell to Lowe's and Home Depot.
Oh,
Well,
right.
if your websuit is a bunch of porous
Widgets.
cement and ugly, they're planters, exactly. It's a big business. It's a really big business. Anyway, long story longer is, what does your planter's website look like to an oncoming employee, to an incoming employee? And what is that experience when they apply, B, their first interview? Because now you've got to build rapport over this video. And in building that rapport over video, are you, being inclusive? Are you, making sure it's hard to build rapport on video in the beginning, right? And how do you explain your company culture when they don't walk into a place? So when you say what would be some of the strategies for companies to best appeal to people, it really is to work on your branding, what your company social proof is out there, and what the candidate pool is seeing.
I mean, interesting things right there. I mean, on one hand, the idea of how to put yourself out there as a company, how to attract just talented people and employees. I think a lot of business owners, Amy, I know a lot of attorneys and accountants, and also businesses that might be, let's say, like a dry cleaner, a restaurant, where they think about, what the customer might want to see, but some don't think about what is an employee who might be looking to work for me interested in seeing. And so I think it's a really good point about having a social media presence that conveys whether it's warmth, whether it's, your energy, whatever your company's, your zest is. I like that idea that you're talking about attracting talent also, not just the customers. But I also hear a good point you raised that I think a lot of businesses, pre-COVID, like you said, like maybe didn't bother, to upgrade their website because they thought, well, I get all my pipeline of clients, let's say from, a neighboring industry. I'm a construction company, and I got 3 architects I know, and I know some contractors, and we all cross refer, we work on things together. So why have a LinkedIn or a alignable profile? But as these times maybe have perhaps demonstrated, we need to be conscious of the fact that attracting new people out there, people might go to your social, whether it's LinkedIn, and we're talking about social media for those that I'm sure people know. They might go to your Twitter, your Facebook, just to see what your presence is like. Are you a LinkedIn? I've seen colleagues, we're networking one-on-one. I go to their LinkedIn profile before we network, and I see it's like, no picture and just bullet points of where they worked. And it just doesn't have that three-dimensional, feel. It almost feels undercover. I feel like they're almost sort of, kind of not quite out there. So really interesting point, to make. And, I know that you have a lot of ability and, really you've given some talks on LinkedIn and so forth. Are there any ways that you think companies can, let's say, a few steps to improve their website, or let's say improve their social media presence?
Well, this is a small little one, but you're going to be surprised. Large companies have a logo, Nike, Home Goods, right? Whole Foods, Trader Joe's.
Sure.
And if they don't have a company page on LinkedIn, but large companies usually do, you need to have a company page where you put your logo so that when your employees write that they work at Trader Joe's, the logo of Trader Joe's is populated in their career experience. You are a small company, and let's use you. I don't want to call you out on the spot, but for all the listeners out there,
sure.
if you're a small business and you do not have a company page on LinkedIn, you're doing yourself a disservice, because that company page allows you to upload your logo, and then your employees that logo will be automatically populated when they put your company name in as working there. And you're building your social proof and your social credibility by using that graphic. And you're building logo recognition, you're building brand integrity by having all your employees have that consistency on their career service in their page. So that's a small one. That's just a logo. But you need to have a company page in LinkedIn to have that logo populate that field.
Mm. And this applies, of course, to, like you mentioned, Amy, a small business as well as a large one. I think a lot of times, a small business owner might not realize that the principles that apply for a large company could easily apply to them too. Whether it's having a modern updated website, or a social media, that LinkedIn company page is an excellent point. I think it also increase one's say visibility on LinkedIn to have their company or their business have its own page and to have their own private. Can they tag their company and post, for example, or?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, and I appreciate you saying this because I use it a great deal to post job opportunities.
Mhm.
So, but I post them on both my Amy Cole, who I am the individual of a 6-person, firm, right?
Right.
And we're 4 right now, but okay, so, but and then I also populate my business page as well. Here's one thing that I just always want to be upfront with everybody. Company pages really are strictly what your company is, if you've got a job opportunity, how many employees, your address. Maybe you want to put a white paper on employment law, on how to navigate furloughing, how to navigate bringing people back. So it is yet just another social platform. But because LinkedIn is the #1 professional platform, Eric, that's where you and I need to be. That's where
Right.
you and I need to spend our time. There was I don't know who it was. There's a marketer, Scott Bradbury, who ran marketing for Nike for many years, says, just because you can doesn't mean you should. Meaning, just because you can have an Instagram, and he was talking social, just because you can have Insta, Twitter, Facebook, Snapchat, and all of them, and LinkedIn, doesn't mean you have to. You should do the one where your target audience is on. You're an employment lawyer.
Exactly.
Is
Right.
your target audience on Twitter? Possibly, but really, where is the credibility being built on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah, I agree. It's LinkedIn, alignable. It's certain, right, more professional geared sites. And some sites do have their own professional groups in them. I've noticed Facebook, for example, Facebook has many groups for professionals, for attorneys, for say, professional business owners and such. So always good to have that information. I've tell this to my clients as well. And I think it's just a great, lesson that we're all learning in this, again, pandemic, just how much we need to be visible and also up to date, up to speed. It's funny. The website is a big piece too. My website actually had it redone once last year, and then with a new company, actually Maxie Grosvenor. Maxie works with her company Studio 6 agency, and they're just fantastic. And so they did a whole website upgrade for me, and it really, in my mind, it's not so much necessarily that your clients, even if your clients don't find you through a website as much, let's say, they might go to the website after they found you. So let's say you have a client who says, hey, Amy Cole was amazing. She helped me out in this job, position. I really want to recommend her. Or in my case, someone says, Eric Sarver, help me with this case and resolved it for me and got it, resolved out of court, et cetera. That person they're telling is like, let me find out more about this person, this Amy Cole, or Eric Sarver, or, Joe Smith, who's running the small company, the software company. And so if they go online and they see your presence is almost like having an outdated website or no LinkedIn presence, like having an old, beat up office. I once had a colleague with a brilliant attorney, but he had an office kind of in an old beat up part of Queens, and it was like cluttered, and he had like an old typewriter, literally, and this is back in the early 2000s, he had a typewriter out with broken key, so people would come in and they wouldn't get to know my colleague for all his abilities and skills. So I think it's an important point. And I want to hear more of your points, but I also want to make sure we take a commercial break for our sponsors and our commercials. And so folks, stick around. I'm here tonight and talking with Amy Cole, our topic being confidence, creativity and connection, cultivating these traits during COVID-19 crisis. Not sure why I'm focusing on the letter C so much here. I'm alliteration. I like to write and so forth, but we'll be back in just a moment. Stick around.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Are you a small business trying to navigate the COVID-19 related employment laws? Hello, I'm Eric Sarver, employment law business law attorney and host of the new radio show, Employment Law Today. On my show, we'll have guests to discuss the common employment law challenges business owners are facing during these trying times. Tune in on Tuesday evenings from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
Do you run or are ready to open your own business? Hi, I'm Jeremiah Fox. I've been operating and opening small business for the last 25 years, and I'm the host of the new show, The Entrepreneurial Web. Tune in every Friday at noon Eastern Time for insights and stories on the nuances of running small business right here on Fridays at noon, talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Welcome back to Employment Law Today. I'm your host, Eric Sauber, employment law and business law attorney and also founder of the law office Eric M. Sauber. I'm here tonight with our special guest, Amy Cole. She is the CEO and founder of Amy Cole Connect. She is an expert recruiter, staffer, career coach, and all around just amazing person, if I might add that as well. So Amy, yes, no, it's good to really just cover some great ground here tonight, just to kind of I like to recap after commercial breaks for those that are either joining late or maybe missed part of the show, and also helps to formulate, some topics or questions and so forth. But we're talking about ways that one can pivot and reinvent themselves, and you've really covered that very nicely, very eloquently, I think. And talking about, I feel like what we heard from you tonight is a lot about the confident connection and creativity, being creative, whether it's forming your own weekly Zoom gathering or meeting and cultivating your contacts and changing the direction of what you do or recording videos, updating your social media, all really creative, good stuff. And the circle of 8, that you contact is just really helpful. I also want to point out that, I think what you're doing here, and I could just, sing your praises if I may, is really kind of cultivating also not just connection and creativity, but confidence. I think that a lot of business owners out there, people that run a company, a business, or provide a service, there needs to be a level of confidence, and confidence comes often with experience and success. We have an experience, we are successful at it, we feel reinforced, like, oh, I'm very good at or in this area. And I think, one challenge might be for, let's say, a challenge for candidates or hiring companies, and to become confident in a different arena. So for example, confidence in, say, interviewing a candidate for your company on Zoom or being that candidate on Zoom. I wonder, are there any tips that you give to your candidates or client companies about how to become more confident in these new arenas like that you're in?
Well, I love the question, and I always say that confidence is contagious. I think, and I always also say that confidence isn't just, I'm great, I'm this, I'm that. It's humility, I think, is very attractive. And I think humility adds to confidence for everybody, be it the brand side, be it the client, the customer, the company hiring, or the candidate side. And I think, it's funny to build the confidence piece. One of the things I do an exercise with people, and I don't want to get boring, or it's actually quite exciting, but I call it the 5 P's of your professional edge. And it's, your purpose, your brand, your profile, resume, LinkedIn, your partnerships, and, your positioning. And what they all weave in together is understanding your value. If I really summed up those 5 P's of your professional edge, which is what I brand my coaching on, once you know your purpose, like Eric, you know me well enough. It is people. I love people. I was an 8th grader, still a Girl Scout. All the other girls were starting to get boyfriends. I'm still going to the old folks home, knitting hot plate things, I just have always been that love people piece. So, and I went to school for physical therapy. How I ended up in recruiting is a God story. It's what I meant to be is to empower people in their careers. We all have that. It's intuitive. And as I said earlier, you're service driven. When I work with you, you're always making sure I'm the happiest. Amy, is this clear? Do you understand? Because you and legalese can drive me crazy, but it's very important that I'm smart and savvy in a business way. No, and you make it personable. It's fabulous. So
thank you.
Understanding your purpose and what you bring to the company branded wise, what the company's purpose is so that you can sell it to the candidate. It isn't a sell anymore. It's a conversation. So this whole online thing, once you understand your purpose and your brand and your profile and how you can make partnerships and how you can position yourself, you have that confidence because it's deep in you. It's not faking it for the interview. It's not faking it to the interviewee, right? You know what your company stands for. If you understand the value your company puts out there, then you can share it with genuine, umph and passion and zest. And that to me comes across, So taking this new platform, and as I always say, please treat it like you're speaking to a friend. Even in interviewing, when I have executives, senior level executives, I hate to interview. Guess what? If you say that, I always feel this is okay to do. I'm not, thank you so much for inviting me into interview today. Sometimes I get a little nervous interviewing. If you're open and honest, it shows humility. It doesn't show weakness. And then the interviewer, the company says, you know what? You're right. These poor people come in or get on Zoom and they have to remember that they're coming in to interview. It's a whole experience, can be anxiety ridden, so your company has to feel confident about what they're bringing to the table, candidate, and be human in this reaction online today. Just be human. Dialogue as though it's human as much as possible.
You said 3 words, Amy, I really love to hear. I relate and I agree so much that, about confidence, being that humility is a part of it. It's not just, a false bravado or, a false of how great one is, but knowing, I think, I define that as knowing one's, what you're capable of doing and what one's, maybe say liabilities or challenges are and what one's strengths are, knowing that, the balance of the two. As well as, being more focused on service towards the person you're interacting with rather than how you might come across. But you mentioned the word humility and also being open and honest. That's just such, good, I think, lesson for business owners and for candidates during the pandemic, after the pandemic, before the pandemic. And I think that what I'm noticing is that I've been doing this show now for about 10 weeks, maybe 11 weeks, I think. Sam over at Leibowitz could tell me over at Talk Radio NYC, but I believe it's 10. Anyway, point I'm make is that a lot of the same themes keep reemerging, whether I'm speaking with a guest who is in marketing or in conflict resolution or recruiting, about emotional intelligence and being open, honest, and humble. And I think that's just really, these are not new concepts. These are things that I think we all maybe have heard about, but now that we're in this pandemic and we're forced to really look at what's happening with our business and people's bottom lines, maybe their profit margins are shrinking, they're giving it more credence. And so speaking of giving credence to I would love to spend another half hour on that topic, but the time flow. And actually, this is the show number 11 for me. Thank you, Sam. It's from Sam Leibowitz, everyone from Talk Radio NYC. So anyway, we have about 2 minutes left, and I want to just stop talking and give you the spotlight. Amy, what do you want to tell us, your listeners, about your company, etc.? It's all you. 2 minutes.
You're so sweet. Thank you so much. Amy Cole really wants to share that these are chances for us to really reevaluate and take a look at where we want to be in our businesses. You know, it's interesting that I've had this opportunity to pivot into coaching and I find such great joy. I always found joy, but it was an add-on. And now it's the meat of my business for this current time. And so I get to really look at it and say, okay, you know, it's been a wonderful revenue stream. It certainly helped me bridge this gap. And yet I get to follow that passion. So I do feel that just from personal experience as I've been pivoting, that I want to encourage people to really believe in what they are, what they have to offer. And, you know, everyone has transferable skills. Companies also can use what they used to do in a new light, in a new segment that might be a hot brand or a hot service. So to believe in really what you are and trust your gut and move forward with excitement, I think that's another thing that's important too. In addition to that humility and that confidence is, you know, that passion, it just, you can't bottle passion. You know, it comes out. It doesn't like a top on it. And I think it works a great deal. So thank you for letting me share.
Amy, you're so welcome. A pleasure having you on tonight. How could folks out there reach you for recruiting or for candidacy coaching to get a career? What's your email and phone number? Want to leave us with that? We have about less than a minute left, and I just love to, again, give that time to you to share with our listeners.
Thank you. You can find all of our information on amycoleconnect.com. I am Amy at amycoleconnect.com and 917-923-6879.
Thank you, Amy. And I'm Eric Sauver, employment law and business law attorney from the law office Eric M. Sauver. And also I'm the host of the show, Employment Law Today. And tune in weekly Tuesday evenings, 5 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Time here on talkradio.nyc. And the station has many other shows during the week, Fridays and Monday through Friday at 1 o'clock and 6. So make sure to check out the website. So we have to wrap up, folks, but I wish everyone a wonderful rest of the week. Amy Cole, Amy Cole Connect, thank you so much for being on the show tonight.
Thank you.
And have a great night, everyone.